Okay, so we've covered the four basic objects. Just a quick question. What is the difference or how many possibilities between the appearing object of a non-conceptual mind and its engaged object? How many possibilities?
Sorry.
Appearing object, yes,
Is the appearing object of a non-conceptual mind?
of a non-conceptual awareness or non-conceptual mind.
An engaged object
An engaged object.
of that same mind.
I think
Pardon?
three.
Of that same mind.
Three possibilities?
I would say three. But four.
Okay. Who says four?
I'll just say four, just in case.
Dear. Okay. All right, so you say four. All right.
Okay, I'm three.
Oh, so you changed to three.
No, I was three all the time.
He was always three. I'm the four.
Oh, you're the four. You're the four. Okay. Oh, he was always three. All right. So Gonzalo.
Yeah.
Posit which pervasion, which what are the pervasions?
If it is the engaged object of a sense direct perceiver, you said?
Our non-conceptual
A
consciousness.
non-conceptual mind, of a non-conceptual consciousness, it's necessarily the appearing object, but not the other way around.
Okay. Does everyone agree with that? Is
What?
whatever is the engaged object of a conceptual, non-conceptual mind necessarily the appearing object of that mind?
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
I would
Go
say
ahead.
maybe not.
Can you give me an example?
The example would be like an eye consciousness of a blue snow mountain.
The eye consciousness of a blue snow mountain. So what would be the engaged object that is not the appearing object?
The thing is, it doesn't really have an engaged object, right?
Well, it doesn't have one, but can it be posited?
It can be posited, yes.
So
Engaged object
therefore,
would be the
the blue snow mountain is both the engaged object and the appearing object, isn't it?
I think the appearing object would be an image of a blue snow mountain. Or the appearance of a blue snow mountain.
Okay, it would be the appearance of the blue snow mountain. So it follows that the blue snow mountain itself is not the appearing object.
Except?
Okay, so it follows that the blue snow mountain is only the appearance of the blue snow mountain. It's not the blue snow mountain itself. Okay. I'm trying to think. I think it's this appearing object actually, but I can't remember. Oh gosh, I've forgotten whether because for a direct perceiver, yeah, it is the appearing object. Because for a direct perceiver, the appearing object of a direct perceiver and impermanent are synonymous. That is not said about non-conceptual minds in general. Therefore, the blue snow mountain would be the appearing object. I seem to remember from Benja Sonntag's commentary on Pramanavartika.
Wait, did you say that the appearing
blue snow
object
mountain
and
is the
impermanent
appearing
are
object.
synonymous?
No. The appearing no. I said not synonymous, sorry. Whatever is the appearing object of a direct perceiver, that is necessarily impermanent. But since the mind that you gave as an example is not a direct perceiver, there's no contradiction. And it doesn't say that whatever is the appearing object of a non-conceptual consciousness has to be necessarily impermanent.
So then when you have an eye consciousness seeing a blue snow mountain, its appearing object doesn't exist and its observed object
Yes.
doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Its appearing object does exist because it is the appearance of the snow mountain and the blue snow mountain. So both are its appearing object, which is why the appearing object exists because there's a particular object that is its appearing object and that does exist. So the eye consciousness apprehending the blue snow mountain has two appearing objects can be posited for that particular eye consciousness. One is existent and one is not.
So therefore, it would be a correct example.
No, it was not a correct example because it's not something that is the engaged object, but not the appearing object. Why? Because the blue snow mountain is both the engaged object and the appearing object. It's not like an example of being one but not the other.
It's actually an example of the opposite, right? Of the appearing object not being the engaged object.
Uh,
Didn't you say that it has two appearing objects?
yes, it has two appearing objects. So I ask, is whatever the engaged object of a non-conceptual consciousness the appearing object? And Venerable Tekchuk said, no, no. For instance, the blue snow mountain. But I
Right,
would
right. I'm saying it's an example of the opposite. It's an example of something that is the appearing object, but not the engaged object.
What you just said, whatever is the engaged object is necessarily the appearing object. Whatever is the appearing object is not the engaged object. Gonzalo, that was your original
Exactly,
statement. And then I
exactly.
ask, is it true that whatever is the engaged object of a non-conceptual mind is necessarily the appearing object? And Venerable Tekchuk said, no, it's not. And he gave the example of the blue snow mountain that appears to an eye consciousness apprehending that mountain,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so I just said, well, um, that's not correct because the blue snow mountain is the appearing object of an eye consciousness apprehending a blue snow mountain. So it's both the engaged object and the appearing object,
Mhm.
right? Venerable Tekcho, do you accept that?
I'm sort of confused about why it would be the appearing object. Like why
Because it appears to a non-conceptual consciousness. Whatever appears to a non-conceptual consciousness is necessarily its appearing object.
it appears.
Whatever appears to a non-conceptual consciousness must be the appearing object. Excuse me.
But
That's not true for a conceptual mind, but that's true for a non-conceptual mind.
I guess I'm having a hard time like reconciling. Like it seems to me that the appearance of the blue snow mountain is appearing,
Yeah.
but the blue snow mountain can't be doing anything because it's not in
Well,
existence.
it's appearing. It
But
does
like,
something, it appears. I mean, it does
that's not like
something.
a function. That's not a function.
No,
So
it doesn't have a function. It personally doesn't have a function, but due to the uh misperception of the eye sense faculty, the way it appears to it, so therefore it still appears. And it's not the function of, let's put it that way. It sounds in English as if that were the function of the blue snow mountain, but in Tibetan, actually, it's the function of the mind, right? Allowing for something to appear to it. So it's not like, oh, the blue snow mountain really makes an effort to appear to it, or even the vase makes an effort to appear to it. That's actually comes from the side of the mind. Otherwise, it could appear to anything. It could appear to, I don't know, a computer or something. If it was just coming the appearance, no, it comes from the mind. It's a function of the mind to have something appear to it. Although in English it seems the agent is no, but actually it's an intransitive verb. So it's not like the blue snow mountain makes itself appear, right? Would you call that an intransitive verb?
yeah, that would
Right?
be interesting.
Yeah.
It still feels a little uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
It's easier to
Yeah,
say that the
I know
appearance.
that discomfort. Not in this example, but I know other times when it feels like,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, so my question would be, does it appear? Like, for instance, if you see the horns of a rabbit, do the horns of a rabbit appear to your eye consciousness?
I would say something which looks very similar to the horns of a rabbit appears to the eye consciousness. And that's why I think that there's horns of a rabbit.
Something similar.
And
So you mean
that's something similar as the appearance.
so that's the appearance of the
Yes.
horns of the rabbit that appears?
Yes.
That which is similar could only be the appearance of the horns of the rabbit, right?
Yes.
Okay, so something similar. So you're saying that the appearance of something is just similar to that which is the engaged object. Would that also be true for an eye consciousness apprehending vase?
Yes.
Is that appearance also just similar?
Well, when you say just, I feel like you're negating something.
Well, that
But
they're not the same. That they're not the same. So you're
say
saying
if you
that
negate the same thing.
So the
The
appearance
vase,
of no,
right.
but I'm saying you're saying something similar. So, okay, there's something that is similar. It's really difficult because it doesn't exist. So something that is similar to a blue snow mountain is kind of a little difficult, right? Because there's nothing that is a blue snow mountain. But you said something that appears, it's not the blue snow mountain itself, it's something that is similar to it. Okay, so let's accept there's something that is similar to a blue snow mountain, and that would be the appearance. But is that then also the case for an eye consciousness apprehending vase? Is the appearance of the vase also similar to the vase? If it's not similar to if it's similar to the vase, then it can't be the vase, right?
I was having this debate with Gonzalo.
Gonzalo, okay.
I think the appearance is very, very, very similar to the vase.
How
As
similar?
far exactly the same.
As far as exactly the same.
Yeah.
What is the part that distinguishes it from the vase so that it's not a vase?
No, I would say the appearance of the vase is the vase.
Oh, the appearance of the vase is the vase. Okay. So they're not similar.
No, they are similar. They're
You're
they're of a
similar.
similar
Are you
type.
similar to Venerable Tekchok, who's sitting right there and talking?
Yes,
No, because you're one with Venerable
very
Tekchok.
similar.
You're one with Venerable Tekchok.
No
Venerable
privation.
Tekchok is one with Venerable Tekchok. Venerable Tekchok is not similar to Venerable Tekchok because Venerable Tekchok is one with Venerable Tekchok.
No privation.
Oh, if something is similar, it's not necessarily not the same.
Except
Oh, so whatever is one with itself is also similar to itself?
yes, it fulfills the definition of similar type.
That's the definition of a similar type. Where did you get that definition?
No, the definition of similar type, that by simply appearing to the mind or something, that and that are similar. That thought arises.
Where did you find that definition?
I think it's in the it's in Sarah J's Dudra. I haven't seen it in English, but I mean I'm not very good at Tibetan, but that's how I understand it, what it's saying in Tibetan.
You can't do it in Tibetan. Okay. All right. So what is the meaning of similar? Um, in Tibetan, actually, dawa means not the same by implication. If something is similar, so I don't know what you mean with similar, like the Tibetan word dao, which means similar. Zik dawa, zik chikpa. So there's a difference. So having a similar type or having the same type, there's also a difference when it comes to that, right? And then the question is, what does similar mean in English?
Not exactly the same.
Not exactly the same,
I
right?
have a
Yeah,
feeling
so
that
that means it's close, but not the same.
yeah, I think
Right.
it implies that.
I maybe it implies it, but like
In English,
I don't think,
without the Dudra definition.
but like for example, when we say it's either this or that, and it's not that. Well, no, not like that, but like we sort of, anyways, my point is like English and debate are sort of different.
Yeah,
So
no,
I don't
she
think you
asked
could
what
just
is
port it
in English.
In English, usually it says it's not the same, but it's similar, it's close in appearance or nature,
Yeah.
right? Of course, you're right. We're borrowing terminology from the Tibetan language. So then we're using English terminology to convey that not in Tibetan, but similar in Tibetan also means not the same, actually. But never mind. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so they're similar. Okay. So the appearance is similar, but it's still the same thing. All right, let's just leave it for now. You could continuously debate that. But I'm wondering, are there other examples? Can you come up with uh, a direct perception? A direct perception, the engaged object, whatever is the engaged object of a direct perception, is that necessarily the appearing object? Come on, come on.
What about an eye consciousness seeing a pot?
Okay.
It seems like the engaged object wouldn't be impermanence or the impermanence of the pot, but it does appear, right?
The impermanence of pot appears as the appearing object, but it's not the engaged object. So Gonzalez said whatever is the engaged object is necessarily the appearing
Ah.
object, right?
Yeah.
So is that really true? If I'll say one word, you'll probably remember.
Is it the person?
Explicit,
Yeah.
Then that's okay.
implicit, 2 words. Implicit, explicit, remember?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So, having said implicit, what comes to mind? Is there an implicit engaged object? Can you think of an implicit engaged object in the case of an I consciousness apprehending vase? Anyone?
Same thing, impermanence of vase.
Non-vase is
Oh, non-vase. Kelsey, you're
Yeah, non-vase.
saying something? No. Okay, non-vase. Oh, or no common locus, or in other words, nothing. So the absence of something being a vase and a non-vase. So taking the subject, the I consciousness, take the subject, the I, oh, my battery's almost empty. Sorry, just a sec. Take the subject and I consciousness, take the subject and I consciousness apprehending vase. It follows it has an implicit engaged object. It knows something implicitly. Explicitly, it knows vast. Just to remind you, we talked about explicit and implicit, you remember? So explicit, to be known, to be engaged, to be apprehended explicitly. What does that mean? To know something. Remember, we had this term explicit object, implicit object, or what else? A direct object, indirect object. That was like the translation was also used. But then we settled on using explicit object and implicit object. Muy schön. What is an explicit? What does that mean? And what does it mean to know something explicitly, to know something implicitly? I think we covered this twice, actually.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, anyone who would like to say something about apprehending, knowing something, realizing something explicitly?
Because I think Ishma, you said the opposite of non-pot is the explicit object.
The opposite of non-pot is the explicit object of an I consciousness
Consciousness
apprehending.
apprehending pot.
Yes, okay. The problem is that the opposite of non-pot
For a
is
direct perceiver.
is pot itself. It's impermanent. But non-pot is said to be permanent. Now that's a
Right.
whole different debate altogether. The opposite of non-pot is impermanent, non-pot is permanent. One of our teachers, Geshe Pandintawa from Debonoseling, he once said, when you say the opposite of non-pot, it's not just negating non-pot, but it takes you back to the pot itself. Therefore, it's impermanent, therefore it's a pot. While non-pot is just too abstract, it's just two negations. Like, yeah, but in Tibetan, the word is not opposite so much as reverse. So the reverse of non-pot, it kind of takes you back to the pot. Yeah. So that was his argument. But anyway, you're right. Yeah. So the opposite of non-pot is the explicit object of an I consciousness apprehending pot.
Yeah.
Apprehending vase, apprehending pot. Yes. So explicit object means
That the object appears
yes.
Like-
And
and implicit, do you mean?
explicit
It
object,
appears to
it ap-
that same cognition.
it appears to that same cognition. Yes. And if I say it is explicitly engaged or explicitly realized by that cognition, what am I saying? Not only is it its explicit object, but it's explicitly engaged. It's explicitly realized. If I explicitly realize the opposite of non-pot, what does that mean?
That you explicitly realize pot?
Yes. But what does it mean to explicitly realize pot?
You don't have to think about it?
That pot appears.
That pot appears when you know it. That what you know it by way of the pot appearing to the mind.
Right.
So then what does it mean to implicitly know something?
You know, without it appearing to the mind.
Without the
That's
image.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I know we don't use the word explicit, implicit in the same way in English. There's some similarity, but we still use it differently. So implicitly, you know something, your eye consciousness knows something, but without that object appearing. What could that be?
The small particles of a pot.
They're known implicitly? Take the
Mm.
subtle particles of the pot.
Wait, no, they're known explicit.
No, that's the other thing, right? That's the
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that is an
yeah.
appearing object, that is
Right.
an explicit object, but it's not known,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so it's not that, but something that is known implicitly without appearing, therefore. What is an example?
Like existence of thought?
Pardon?
Existence of thought?
Ah.
Existence of thought.
The existence of pot. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, some would argue. I'm not sure everyone agrees, but actually makes total sense. When you know pot, you implicitly know the existence of pot. Very good, Anastasia. Yeah, because otherwise it's not like you've seen the pot, but you're still wondering whether it exists or not. You've known the pot. Yes, that's a good point. Very good. So for instance, if you see my body, what would you know implicitly? When you know my body, you recognize my body, you realize my body, what would you know implicitly without appearing to your mind?
It exists.
That is it's a person.
Impermanent.
That is a person. That this is Kasamwamu. You could say that. But to have more abstract examples, remember I said not pot. Or that there's nothing which is both a pot and a non-pot. You know that implicitly. It doesn't appear to your eye consciousness. However, you know. Once you know pot, you know that there's nothing that is both pot and non-pot, right? That's a little abstract. But I liked Anastasia's example of the existence of pot. You know it exists. That's a good example.
But do you know all of that?
Mhm.
Like, is it a non-conceptual consciousness that knows all of that? Or is it like, it seems to be a mental consciousness that kind of a little bit superimposes all of these things of like
Mm.
exists and this and this is that and this is not this, not that. Like,
Yeah, well, but the thing is, do you really need a mental consciousness to figure out whether the pot exists or not, or do you know automatically, right? Do you need to give rise to a conceptual consciousness that is now getting to understand that the pot exists? I mean, the thing is, not everyone would agree. To be honest, not everyone on the debate grounds. Some people would say you cannot know that this person is your father. You cannot know that this is a pot. That can only be done by a conceptual consciousness. So those who assert this, they would have to say an eye consciousness doesn't know that the pot exists. Okay. But I think if you choose the view that Latu Rinpoche introduces in his Mind in Tibetan Buddhism, that you can know someone is your father, but just seeing their body, it seems okay to say it can implicitly also know. So it would be implicitly knowing. You explicitly know the shape and color of your father, and then with that eye consciousness, and that eye consciousness would then implicitly know this is my father. All right. So again, I said a few times if we follow that view, but of course it's up to you. Does that make sense? Okay. So like the eye consciousness is said to be dumb, Acharya Chandrakirti says in his clear words, but not that dumb. Right? Okay, great. But anyway, so yeah, that would be an example. I'm still well, with regard to the example that Venerable Tekcho gave, I don't think that is an example of something that is the engaged object but not the appearing object. But okay, it's still something open to debate. However, the other example would be the existence of bus, following Dhirenvich's view. Yeah, that would be an example. Great. I'm not going to ask you any further questions. I'll do that as we go along, because otherwise we won't start with this next chapter, which is not easy. All right, let's start reading this this next chapter, which in my text is page 293. What page number have you got?
250.
250. Great, thank you. All right, so I'll continue to translate image as aspect. I hope that's not too confusing because the word image is mentioned a lot. But as I said before, aspect, well, what aspect means, it refers to the object itself. However, or not necessarily, it depends. But image, I think that's limited just to an eye consciousness, which is why I prefer to use aspect. So does an aspect appear to sensory cognition, an aspect of a visual object, of sound, and so forth. The Vaibhashikas, and this is something you may think, what do I care what the Vaibhashikas say? But the thing is, when you when you study the different tenet systems, that is pretty important. It comes up a lot, and I find that really interesting because in a certain way, it may even reflect the way we look at perception. So let's hear. The Vaibhashikas say that when an eye consciousness apprehends its object, blue, yellow, and so on, an aspect does not appear. This is the first sentence where I believe the word appear is not the right translation here. It should be does not manifest to the mind, does not manifest. But let me just check, make sure it's not, I'm using it the same way as the Tibetan. 260. Where is it? Oh, right here. Okay. Zen number Masharwa. Yeah, Sharwa. Sharwa. I think it has to be translated differently, and you'll see. It'll become clear once we get through this page. Okay. Once we go through this page. So an aspect does not appear. Instead, the eye consciousness apprehends its object nakedly, without an aspect. So in other words, nothing appears to the eye consciousness. Nothing appears. This is a really big assertion, and it seems weird. So like nakedly, that's not like there's some aspect that is manifested to that mind, that arises within that mind, but rather it's the object itself. Okay, that's what they say. The other Buddhist schools, beginning from Sautrantika up to the higher systems, say that consciousness sees by means of aspect, an aspect arising or manifesting to the mind. I would say, like I said, it'll be clearer once we get to a little bit further down in the text that appearing here cannot be used. Also, the Vaibhashikas accept that the object, a visible form and so on, appears to the sense faculty, though since the consciousness lacks form, the consciousness cannot have an aspect of the form manifest in the manner of a reflection. So, okay, they say, and that makes sense, so nothing can appear to the eye consciousness because it's not physical. I mean, things appear to mirrors, but they don't appear to consciousness. That is one reason, but there's another reason mentioned later on. Okay, so for this reason, they do not accept that an aspect of the object, such as blue or yellow, manifests to the consciousness or in the consciousness. Subschools of those who accept that the consciousness bears aspects, that has aspects, explain this in different ways. Some say that while the aspect arising to a or manifesting in a consciousness is an aspect in that consciousness, it is not consciousness itself. Others say that because it is an object aspect in that consciousness, it is consciousness itself. Wow. This is really weird. So they say, and this is actually widely accepted. The first view would be the aspect object or the object aspect. So first of all, what is the object? What is the aspect? That's the question here. We've already heard previously that the object aspect is the vase, for instance. But that is really difficult, especially the letter view here, the second view. If you say that while the aspect appearing, so this last sentence before the next paragraph, some say that while the aspect appearing or manifesting in a consciousness is an aspect in that consciousness. It is not consciousness itself. That's okay. All right. So it's just the aspect of vas that manifests in that mind, but in the way of appearing. In this case, appearing works. But in the latter case, others say that because it is an object aspect in that consciousness, it is consciousness itself. And like I said, this is commonly accepted.
The latter.
Pardon?
The latter is commonly
The
accepted.
latter, yes. Others say that because it is an object aspect in that consciousness, it is consciousness itself. Because you call consciousness sungnam. Sungnam. So when you, especially those who accept reflexive awareness or self-knowers, they distinguish between the consciousness, for instance, the I consciousness, that is called object aspect, sungnam, object aspect, sungnam, while the reflexive awareness is the dzinnam, which means the subject aspect or the apprehender aspect. All right. This is a common term that is, used in particular when you talk about reflexive minds. Okay, so the object aspect is the I consciousness, and then the subject aspect, so the mind that perceives the subject, which is in this case here, subject means mind, the I consciousness, that is the reflexive awareness. All right. In Tibetan, it literally means instead of object aspect, you say apprehended. That is the apprehended object aspect. And then the reflexive awareness is the apprehender aspect. Apprehended aspect or apprehended object aspect, that is the I consciousness, and its self-knower, its reflexive awareness, is the apprehender aspect. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit complicated, but the terminology comes up a lot. Okay. Those who accept sense consciousnesses to have an aspect call the aspect of the object that manifests to the sense consciousness the object aspect. Okay, so those latter ones, those here, others say that because it is an object aspect in that consciousness, it is consciousness itself. So those who accept that to have an aspect call the aspect of the object that manifests to the or in the sense consciousness. No, sorry. So let me read that again. My intonation was off. Those who accept sense consciousness to have an aspect call the aspect of the object that manifests in the sense consciousness the object aspect. All right. Okay. Consider the example of an I consciousness apprehending a form, which has two parts. So it has two parts, that I consciousness. A part that is the manifesting aspect of the external form, and a part that is the clear cognition experiencing itself. The first is called the object aspect of the I consciousness. Apprehending of since there is no, oh yeah, this is where it comes. Since there's no difference between this, the I consciousness apprehending a form and an aspect of form manifesting in the I consciousness apprehending that form, the object aspect, is the I consciousness itself. So what is this saying? It is saying that the object aspect that manifests in the I consciousness is the I consciousness itself. That's why you can't say appearing, because otherwise the I consciousness appears to the I consciousness. So what is happening here? And let's explain then. We are saying that the object aspect is the I consciousness itself. What does it do? It manifests that aspect. It arises in the form of that aspect. It arises in the form of that aspect, and it arises in the aspect of vas, for instance. So that's a little bit weird, but we've said that so when we learned Lorig, for instance, and even later when we studied Pramanavartika, this expression is used a lot. The I consciousness arises as the aspect of the vase. That's another way of saying, or it manifests in the aspect of the vase, which is another way of saying vase appears to it. But it takes on that aspect. It takes it on. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the mirror takes on the image of whatever appears to it. It arises in the way of manifesting the reflection. So we say, oh, it just appears to it. It just reflected in it. But no, the whole mirror has changed. When something appears to it, when this reflection appears to the mirror is not the same as it was before. It's become its nature, basically. It manifests in the aspect of what appears to it. It manifests in the aspect of the reflection. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's inseparably linked now to that mirror. And in the same way here, they express this in a similar way. So it's not just you have a mind over here and something reflected or something appearing over there, but no, the mind takes on the aspect of the object. It manifests in or the object manifests within it. The aspect manifests within it. Does that make sense? I think with the mirror, it's almost clearer than with the consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, this sentence, I'll just read it again. The sentence that starts with, since there is no difference between this, so the I consciousness and the object aspect, the I consciousness apprehending a form, and an aspect of that form manifesting in the I consciousness apprehending that form, the object image, is the I consciousness itself. Okay. What is meant by the phrase an image manifesting in the I consciousness is that the I consciousness arises from its own cause in the aspect of the object. There it is. Right? It arises. It doesn't appear. Appears the wrong word because here it's very clear they say arises from its own cause. That's this particular cause. So what is the cause? Here it's the object. One of its causes is the object. So it arises from that cause, the object, in the aspect of the object. Who has a hard time understanding this? Okay, that's fine. Okay. It arises in the aspect. So if I look, for instance, I'm looking in a mirror. Imagine I'm looking, this is my mirror, and I'm looking inside the mirror. And now you're also checking out what appears in the mirror. You see my face, right? Or a reflection of my face. Do you agree?
Yes.
So the mirror arises with the reflection of my face, doesn't it? If you just look at the mirror, that the mirror is no longer what it was before it was reflected. Before it reflected something else. Let's say there was a white background. All that was reflected was that white background. But now with me standing in front of the mirror at a particular angle, if you look at the mirror, now it's changed. It's arisen with that reflection. So similarly here, it said that because the object now appears to the mind arises with that aspect of the object manifesting within it. Yeah, it's a slightly weird way of talking, but I think the mirror really works to illustrate that. I could have just dropped it. I could have just not read it. But I thought this is like if you ever studied Tibetan, you want to know this. And well, from now on, I mean, there'll be more texts written on Lorig, for instance, and if ever anyone bothers to expand on that even further, you should know that the mind arises in the form of this aspect manifesting, or it arises, the mind itself arises in the aspect of the object. There is no separate thing, it goes on to say, that arises as an aspect other than the eye consciousness itself. What arises as an aspect of its object? So, for instance, an eye consciousness apprehending vase. It arises in the aspect of the vase, right? It arises in the aspect of the vase. The second, that part that is clear cognition experiencing the eye consciousness. Remember, there were two parts. One part is the manifesting of the image. So manifesting the image, the image of the aspect, I should say. The aspect of the vase is manifested in the eye consciousness. That is one part. So in other words, what appears to it is the vase. And then there's also a part that is clear cognition experiencing itself. That refers to the self-knower. Okay? So the part that is clear cognition experiencing the eye consciousness. So basically, of course, we say it's two parts. So the eye consciousness apprehending vase has two parts: the eye consciousness itself and its reflexive knower. So saying it's a part of it seems to imply that the reflexive knower is the eye consciousness. But no, that's not what they say. The self-knower or the reflexive consciousness and that which it apprehends are of one nature. They're inseparably linked. It's almost like you have one mind looking outwards and call that eye consciousness, and one mind that looks inwards. Add the mind that looks outwards, and that you call reflexive consciousness. But they're all part of the same awareness. Does that make sense? I'll repeat that. This is how the texts explain it. There's actually expression, kanande kachide in Tibetan, which means one that is directed outwards and one that is directed inwards. Okay, so when we speak about self-knowers and reflexive awareness, of course the Prasangika negates it. And you may go like, oh, I don't care. The Prasangika doesn't accept it. I don't need to learn about it. Well, you do. The bad news is you do. Because once you study, or if you continue with Pramanavartika or other texts, for instance, Parchin or the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, based on or with the commentary of Maitreya Abhisamaya Alamkara, there the self-knower plays a huge part. So you need to understand the self-knower. But the self-knower, we shouldn't think of it as a different mind to the mind that it perceives. No, think of like one mind, one mind. One part of it is directed outwards, then you call it a sense consciousness, and one part looking at the mind itself, right? Directed outwards in the case of an eye consciousness. But anyway, any mind that is not a reflexive awareness is said to be directed outwards, right? Because yeah, I mean, actually, you could debate, like, it could be a inferential cognizer knowing itself. Does that make it a reflexive awareness or not? And the answer is no, because they say it the reflexive awareness knows its object in a non-dual fashion, but not non-dual the way we ordinarily know it, but rather there's no distance between the object and what is perceived. So it's kind of like a part of it. Okay. It's a little bit hard to understand, given that it's not actually accepted by the higher school. It makes it even harder. But again, think of it this way. The easiest way would be to think you have one mind, one looking at something other than itself, and another part looking at itself, or as other part, as looking at the part that's looking at something else. That's the reflexive knower. Is that clear? Okay, hopefully it is. But we come to the reflexive knower again. So whatever I'm saying now, maybe it's helpful for once we get to the self-knower as part of the 7 types of consciousness. Okay, so therefore, the second part of an eye consciousness is oops, sorry. The second part of an eye consciousness, the second part of the eye consciousness is that clear cognition, the reflexive knower itself, experiencing the I consciousness. And that is called the subject aspect of the I consciousness, or the apprehender aspect of the I consciousness. According to those who accept reflexive awareness, there's no difference between this and a reflexive perception experiencing the I consciousness. So that subject aspect or that apprehender aspect, that's the reflexive awareness. So every mind, they say, has an object aspect and a subject or apprehender aspect. So the mind that looks outwards is the object aspect. The mind that looks at the mind that looks outwards is the subject aspect, the apprehender aspect or self-knower, reflexive awareness. Okay. All right. Both the Sautrantikas and the Chittamatras. All right. Now we're with also including the Chittamatras. Previously, it was uh, more Sautrantika, basically. Well, yeah, in comparison to the Vaibhashika, but actually both the Sautrantikas and Chittamatras, they accept self-knowers. Very important, especially for the Chittamatans. They need self-knowers. They agree in maintaining that in the phrase, okay, now the next sentence is not correctly translated, I'm afraid. So it's I'll try. I went through the Tibetan, and my understanding is that it's different. So I'll read what I have here, what I've translated. Both the Sautrantikas and the Chittamatras agree in maintaining that in the phrase, so the first part is the same, the object aspect of an I consciousness apprehending blue. As part of this phrase, object refers to blue, and the aspect means that the I consciousness apprehending blue arises in the aspect of the object blue. I'll say it again. This phrase, the object aspect of an I consciousness apprehending blue. As part of this phrase, the object refers to blue. If you have an I consciousness apprehending blue, what is the object? It's blue. Okay. And the aspect, the object aspect. So the aspect means that the I consciousness apprehending blue arises in the aspect of the object blue. Does that make sense? Again, just as the mirror arises with the reflection of my face. It's no longer that mirror to which just, I don't know, whatever the background appears, white appears. I mean, of course, that always something appears to a mirror and always appears something appears to the mind. So if previously what appeared to the mind was a table, well, that no longer appears. And now the mind, what appears to it is a vase, a pot appears to it, and therefore the pot, or in this case, blue appears to it. It apprehends blue. It's an I consciousness apprehending blue. And what happens is that now the I consciousness apprehending blue arises in the aspect of the blue, of the object blue. So it arises in the aspect of the object blue. It takes on that appearance. Okay. All right. The next sentence also needs to be slightly changed, though it's pretty close to the Tibetan, but yeah, not the next sentence, sorry. Nevertheless, they also disagree in the following way. So the Sautrantika and the Chittamatrans. I just think it's a little clearer if the two sentences are translated differently. So the Sautrantikas assert that the I consciousness, apprehending blue still, arising as possessing the aspect of form, or like an I consciousness apprehending form. So arises as possessing the aspect of form. It says it in Tibetan, it arises as possessing the aspect of form. It arises as possessing the aspect of form from its own cause, the external form. So, to say it again, let's take the I consciousness apprehending blue. The Sautrantikas has said that the I consciousness apprehending blue arises as possessing the aspect of blue from its own cause, blue. So blue is the cause for the I consciousness arising as possessing the aspect of blue. Not sure you understand. Do you understand? I mean, be honest. If you understand, just raise your hand.
Well, now
I think I'm up
Right.
until this last part. Yeah,
I'll say again. Okay. I'll say again. The Satantrikas assert that the icon, and I'm now not reading exactly what's in the text, but I'm now giving the example of the eye consciousness apprehending blue. The Satantrikas assert that the eye consciousness apprehending blue arises from its own cause, the external blue, as possessing the aspect of blue. Right? In other words, the Satantrikas arise independence on the external blue as an eye consciousness possessing the aspect of blue. So it manifests in that mind, the aspect of blue. If I were to say that it manifests if I were to say that the aspect of blue were to appear to that mind, the mind itself is the aspect of blue. Right? We've already heard that the eye consciousness apprehending blue is the object aspect. So it is the aspect, therefore, of blue. How can the aspect of blue appear to the eye consciousness if the aspect of blue is the eye consciousness? The eye consciousness doesn't appear to the eye consciousness. That's why I don't want to use the word appear as it's been used so many times. I want to say, no, it manifests, the aspect of blue manifests within that because it manifests itself as that eye consciousness. But it's difficult. Even in Tibetan, it sounds really odd at times. At times, it sounds odd. Yeah. So it's not, don't get hung up on the words, but better on the meaning. Then it says in the mind-only school, then it compares that to the Chitta Matrans. In the Chitta Matrans, the mind-only school, however, assert that the eye consciousness arises as the very nature of this aspect, arises as this aspect through the power of karmic imprints. So they both arise in the aspect of their object, but one in the Satantrika school arises in the aspect of blue, independence on the external blue. While in the Chittamatra school, they don't accept the external existence of blue. So they say that the eye consciousness arises as the aspect of blue through the power of imprints, through the power of latent karmic imprints. And that's the difference between the two schools. Okay. That's what this sentence says. Also, those who accept external objects say that when blue is seen by an eye consciousness apprehending blue, that blue-like aspect. So the mind itself arises as having the aspect of blue, but that's not blue really. I mean, it's the mind. It's not blue itself. The mind arises in that aspect. So it's a blue-like aspect. It's not blue itself because the mind is not blue. It's not the color blue. That blue-like aspect itself that manifests in the mind, it is projected inwardly by the blue. So in other words, inwardly, so the mind itself, blue is projected. So how does it take on the aspect of blue? Well, because of the actual blue that was projected inwardly. Just as blue can be reflected in a mirror, blue here appears to the mind. So therefore the blue is projected inwardly. Inwardly means towards the mind in such a way that the mind arises in the aspect of blue. Just as when, for example, the design of a seal is stamped on a piece of paper. That design itself is fixed onto the paper from the side of the seal. Right? So without the seal, you couldn't have the imprint of the seal. The imprint of the seal is like the mind. Without the seal is like blue. Right? Blue is this external object which projected inwardly in such a way that the mind arises in the aspect of blue. So it's like the stamp. The mind is like the visible stamp. But without the seal, you couldn't have the stamp. That design itself is fixed onto the paper from the side of the seal. Without blue, you couldn't have the appearance of blue. Without the seal, you couldn't have the stamp. Right? Or, yeah. without this from the side of the seal. So the seal, you couldn't have that stamped seal. I mean, that stamped piece of paper. For if that similar aspect itself were not an image, were not an aspect projected by the external object, then this would entail the fault that an eye consciousness apprehending blue would arise even in places where there is no blue. So you need the external object. The mind arises in the aspect of blue, but that doesn't happen without blue, like an external object. Those who do not accept external objects say that the blue-like aspect itself that manifests in the eye consciousness is not projected inwardly by blue, by an external blue. No. Instead, like the appearance of blue in a dream, it appears through the force of the ripening of latent potencies within the continuum of the mind. Okay, now this was a really difficult way of saying something quite simple. It's basically saying blue appears to the mind. Why does blue appear to the mind? Because there's an external object in the Sautrantika school, while there are imprints in the Chittamatra school. While the Vaibhashika says nothing appears to the mind. I don't even know why the authors chose to make that extra complication where they formulated the phrase something appears to the mind, blue appears to a mind, in such a way that they indicated that something appearing to the mind means that the mind arises as the aspect of its object, just as a mirror now takes on the aspect of its object. It's now a mirror that is no longer the same mirror as before. It's taken on the aspect of its reflection. That's the expression that is used more commonly in English. It takes on the aspect of its object. That's it. It's as simple as that. It takes on the aspect of its object. But because the translators try to keep close to the Tibetan, some of these formulations that are difficult to put into English are just very confusing. But I can summarize it in 3-4 sentences to make it simpler. Yes, to
Geshima,
understand it.
whenever you are explaining things in your language, it becomes crystal clear.
Okay.
But then when we are looking at the text and trying to find the right translation, sometimes I get confused. Would it be possible that you just explained how you just did that last paragraph? It was absolutely crystal clear, and we didn't worry so much about what the text was actually saying. Do you think that would be possible?
You know, difficult is better.
Okay.
Difficult is better. You know, like these texts are nothing. The text that we study in Tibetan, oftentimes it doesn't say A is C. In over 3 pages, what you figure out after reading them 10 times is that A is C. But it's never said that. It's A is B, but whatever is B is necessarily D, and D is... It's really good for the mind, for the brain. I mean, for the brain, for the mind, right? There's so many ways to train our mind. I mean, reading through this, you use your mind in a much more effective way than you just chewing it and presenting it to you. I mean, I did that because I didn't want to confuse you too much, but we should rejoice in not understanding. We're not used to it, right? But after all these studies, when I don't understand something, now it triggers this curiosity. Like, oh, now I really want to understand. I'm so confused. Oh, wow, great. I'm totally confused. That's good news. And so I'm so confused at times, I don't even know what to ask. You know, it's like you don't even know you don't even know where to start. What am I going to ask? I'm just completely, and it's so satisfactory when I'm able to formulate the first question. It's like a maze of like not understanding this, not understanding this. Like, I don't know, 10 sentences and I don't understand anything. And then I know, oh, I can ask about this first, right? It's almost like undoing the first knot. And then it's like, and once I have the answer, or even if I sometimes figure out the answer by myself, because that's also something that you learn to do. You don't always want to ask. You want to figure it out yourself. So all of this is part of mind training. It's all part of mind training. Tibetans, and not just Tibetans, Indians as well, have figured out this incredible system where there's so many opportunities to train your mind, to train your intelligence by putting it in a complicated way, by making long sentences, like they go over pages sometimes. Could have been maybe put in a simpler way, but then you don't stay focused as much. You lay back, have some tea. No, you want to be focused. You need single pointed focus. Well, this is a good opportunity to practice single pointed focus. So it's better to have it in that difficult way. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So you read it again and again, and you use your mind in a way where you welcome the challenge, because emptiness is so challenging, and everything we do is basically directly or indirectly directed towards understanding emptiness. Because that's what we really need to understand. It's very deep, it's very difficult. So we need to train the mind in many different ways. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's good. The more complicated is, the better. So it shouldn't discourage us. You learn after some time to rejoice, to be happy to read something really complicated. Now, like instructions at home, like they know that I like instructions, these complicated instructions on like how to set an alarm clock or something. Sometimes they're so complicated, and I love doing this. It's like, I don't understand a word. This was great. So I sit down, like with the text we study, and I go through every step, and I can always figure it out because they are very logical. It's just when I read the first sentence, when I read the second sentence, I've forgotten the first sentence. So I need to go back. Yeah. All right. Okay, time is up. So anyway, I did summarize it. And if you replace image with aspect and appear with manifest to the mind, and just keep in mind what I just said at the very end, that basically the mind takes on the aspect of its object, which is another way of saying the object appears to it. With that in mind, maybe it becomes a little clearer. And trust me, I struggled with this. I read both languages, and then with the Tibetan was clearer to me, but there is some sentences a few pages before this which are not that clear, that seem to be a little contradictory. So I've also struggled with it, and I'm going to ask eventually the authors for this class. It's not necessary, but for my own translation of the second part into German, I have to ask the authors, what do they actually mean? It seems contradictory. Yeah, but it's not my job to translate this into English, so that's why I'm not doing it right now. Okay, anyway, great. But again, if it was a difficult class, good. You don't go to the gym, right? You don't go to the gym, pick up 10 gram, go like that for 10 minutes without breaking a sweat and say, oh, that was a good exercise. That was great. I've really benefited from that expensive gym. No, you want to sweat. You want to be challenged. So if it's a difficult class and you didn't understand much, it's a good class. All right.
Thoroughly investigated
In a core
all that I've heard, day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, made this discernment sever all doubts.
Okay, great. All right. So please continue to read from where we got to, somewhere in the middle of page 251, it should be now, and then continue for 2 more pages.
Thank
2 pages, 3 pages, and enjoy being confused.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
I tried.
No, thank you. That was excellent.